Hello, welcome everybody to Relativity's Fireside Chat. Today our topic is the rise to the cloud. My name is Brendan McLaughlin. I'm a senior recruiter and I'm joined today by Laura Atkins, our senior product manager. Laura will be doing a presentation going into a little bit more detail about our cloud product. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit more about Relativity. Next slide. And actually, one more. Thank you. What is Relativity? We're a market-leading global tech company that equips legal and compliance professionals with a powerful platform to organize data, discover the truth, and act on it. We're leaders in the e-discovery and unstructured data technology space. We were founded in 2001. We're headquartered in Chicago, and we have offices worldwide in San Francisco, London, Krakow, Poland, Hong Kong, and Melbourne, Australia. We currently have 1,200 plus employees, 320,000 plus enabled platform users. At our Relativity Fest last year, we had 2,000 plus attendees, which makes us the largest in-person e-discovery industry conference and the second largest conference in the legal tech space. We also have 100 plus development partners and 130 plus apps developed for the Relativity ecosystem. Relativity is available in 48 countries and RelativityOne is available in 8 countries and growing. Next slide. Our product offerings are RelativityOne, our market-leading e-discovery cloud offering, Relativity, our on-premise e-discovery platform. We have Relativity Legal Hold, which helps our clients focus on preserving your most critical data in one defensible, repeatable process in the cloud, and Relativity Trace, our robust monitoring tool for insider trading, collusion, and other non-compliant behavior in real time. Next slide. Our motto is organize data, discover the truth, and act on it. Next. You can learn more about our products by visiting our site at relativity.com, or you can follow us on social media on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram. Next. And without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Laura Atkins, and she goes through our presentation. To you, Laura.
All right, thanks, Brendan. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. So excited to be here and talk about Relativity's journey to the cloud and just a little bit about SaaS and cloud products in general, and kind of maybe a bit of an introduction for some people, but maybe it'll be simple for some other people who are attending today. So my name is Laura Atkins, as everybody has mentioned already, and I am a product manager at Relativity. I work exclusively with our RelativityOne product, focused on the performance and monitoring of our product. And I have been at Relativity for about 3.5 years now. I started in our support organization and then moved to customer experience and then started this role as a product manager. And I love Relativity. We work with just awesome people solving like really, really interesting problems all the time. And yep, just love what I do and love the challenges. So I'm ready for the next slide. So I love this quote by Mark Benioff, who's the CEO of Salesforce, and Salesforce is one of the most successful SaaS companies in really in the world. And he says the only constant in the technology industry is change, and I think that's really true. You know, it's something that we experience every day, and like I think even one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up is like, you know, technology has changed significantly, you know, in the last, 20, 30 years, but in the last, 5 to 6 to 7 years, it's like the pace of change has just accelerated in like exponentially. And I think that will only continue to happen. And cloud technologies have really enabled that pace of change to quicken even that much more. So next slide, please. So when we talk about the cloud, what do we mean? I love this cartoon for anybody who's new to cloud storage or the cloud or understanding what the cloud is. I live in Chicago, and we even have the actually the bean in Millennium Park, which the real name of that statue is the cloud. So I also have a joke that like that's where the cloud lives. But what is the cloud for real? It's actually a lot of compute that's in a lot of different places. So so you'll see on the side of the cartoon this little graphic that has the cloud, and these are some of the top cloud providers in the world right now. Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platform, and Microsoft Azure are some of the more common ones used in the United States. In the Americas, they also have global data centers all over. Alibaba Cloud is also, it's an international cloud provider. So yep, those are kind of the top cloud providers in the world. And those cloud providers have data centers like all over the place. Some of you may have seen, there are articles of like Microsoft is like putting servers under the ocean to keep them cool and stuff. And so, so that's like what the cloud is. It's like these shared data centers that are like in all these different locations that software companies and software engineers can use that compute by accessing it via these platforms like Azure Portal or Amazon E2 services. Next slide, please. So we have a little poll real quick. Someone can pull up our poll. So the poll is, what does SaaS stand for? I've mentioned that a couple times. Is it software as a sandwich, software as a service, save as a sound file, or sit at a station? And you can go ahead and answer the poll and submit it, and we'll see what people come up with. We'll leave it open for like 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Can we show the results of the poll? Is that possible? Oh, everybody got it, except for like 3%, which said software as a sandwich, but that was probably just being funny. So thank you. 97% said software as a service. That was just my little joke for the day. And thank you for humoring me, whoever put software as a sandwich. Props to you. So yeah, software as a service. And this image kind of breaks down the difference between software as a service and on-premise. So before we had the cloud, we had software, and companies would buy software and they would install it on hardware in their offices. So they would buy like physical servers and have server rooms in their companies. A lot of companies still do this. On-premise for a lot of reasons isn't necessarily going anywhere. So they buy physical servers, have server rooms in their offices, and then install the software on those servers. SaaS allows you to buy compute from a different company, and then you don't have to manage like the servers or the server rooms. You can manage the servers like remotely from your desk. So that's kind of one of the big differences. Some of the other differences you can see here, like SaaS can be like a lower, cost up front, system upgrades are automatically installed, those kinds of things, and yeah. And then we have other, yeah, we can move on. So, and then other as a services that I just wanted to bring up. So like SaaS is like kind of one end of the spectrum, and on-premise is the other end of the spectrum. And then we have these different like PaaS and IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service. So PaaS is platform as a service. And even at Relativity, starting to get into a little bit what we do at Relativity, we actually have like PaaS platforms as a services that we build our software on top of. So we use so as a SaaS product, we use infrastructure and we use cloud products to have our software, to host our software, and then we have like PaaS offerings built on top of that, and then our software engineers can call into those PaaS systems. So it can get pretty complicated when you have all the different as a services all working together, but it's more cost effective to do that, and it can work more efficiently too. You can take advantage of a lot of those of the scalability and flexibility of cloud services. All right, next slide. So moving to Relativity One was a fun adventure for our company, and it continues to evolve and be a great product that I love working on every day. Lots of fun, good, challenging problems to solve. And Relativity One launched in September of 2016, actually the day after Labor Day of 2016, and you have all these kind of options for um, going into the cloud. So Relativity was, as Brendan mentioned, from all of our products that we have, like Relativity Server is our on-premise product. It's a software product. Customers can buy it. They can install it on servers that they have in their offices. We even have customers who have like closed systems, like they run Relativity internally in their companies on servers, and they don't have those machines like open to the internet, like open to the web. So you get a more secure, like for companies and entities that are like really security conscious, that might be like the reason they would go with an on-premise installation. Our SaaS solution is still very secure. We have like a whole security team. We take security very seriously, but like for example, if you don't want an application open to the web at all, like on-premise would be a solution that you could consider. So when we launched Relativity One in September 2016, so you can see these three kind of options that I have listed out here, like rehosting, replatforming, and refactoring. And these are kind of the three options that companies consider when they launch or when they decide to go to the cloud. So just to give you like a brief example, so rehosting is kind of what we did in the beginning. So we did the lift and shift. We took our software and put it into the cloud. Now we did have to do some replatforming. There were aspects of our product that we did have to, so we did like a small scope of replatforming plus kind of the lift and shift. And since then we've moved to this like replatforming area. That's kind of like, we're kind of in this middle stage right now where we are doing some common modifications to take advantage of more cloud native or the benefits of the cloud. So scalability and flexibility. So the big benefit of the cloud of going to the cloud is all of your compute resources are kind of available on demand and you only pay for what you use. So if I need to spin up 5 servers, I can do it. If I only need those servers for 15 minutes, that's all I pay for. So I spin up 5 servers, use those servers for 15 minutes, and then I can spin them down. And then I just pay for those 5 servers for 15 minutes. As opposed to, if you'll remember the on-premise solution that I talked about, you have to buy those actual physical servers. They're actual physical machines that you have to buy and keep and maintain. And so you don't always have that like scalability and flexibility that you have in the cloud without investing in a significant amount of hardware. So yeah, and then the other option is refactoring, which is like completely rewriting your software to take advantage of all of the cloud scalability and flexibility and incorporating cloud native technologies into your software. So there are pros and cons to each of these methods. The pros for rehosting are it's like less time, fewer resources. It's going to be like your fastest approach. Like you can actually get your software, like just put it there into the cloud without too much, without too many changes. But when you do that like lift and shift solution, you can't quickly benefit from the cloud native technologies, and it's going to be less flexible and less scalable. Now the replatforming, it's very cost effective and you can kind of start small and scale up as needed, but it becomes very difficult to like manage the scope of that. And like what do we do first? Like where do we take advantage of that first? What do we move first? Like what's the most beneficial stuff? And if we move this, should we move this too? Kind of thing. So those making those technology choices can, and then the replatforming, the middle ground one kind of has that scope creep. So you have to be really careful to like try to limit things into the boxes that you have if you're doing that one. And then refactoring, which who knows, maybe this will be our future someday, but we'll see. We're definitely, I feel like we're heading in that direction, but I don't want to don't want to commit anyone to anything that is not my role. But the refactoring thing, the big downfall of the refactoring is it's like a very complex and resource intensive process. So one company that I know of that chose the refactoring path, they actually took them 2 years. So they like hired a group of engineers, put those engineers like aside, like and said, okay, take our software. This is how our software works on-prem, and make it cloud, like make it for the cloud, like rebuild the whole software, make it for the cloud. And it took 2 years and all those man hours before. So it's quite an upfront investment, but then immediately on launch, you get, all of those cloud native benefits, the scalability and the flexibility. So it's the longest path and it takes the most time, but it tends to have better overall performance and efficiency. Now, having said that, you also get you can oftentimes get yourself locked into a specific cloud provider. So the cloud providers like Amazon Web Services and Azure, they have specific technologies like AWS's Lambda technology. So like if you are building your software on AWS, you're taking advantages of all those native cloud options that AWS offers. So what if in 1 year you have a customer come along and they're like, hey, I love your software and I want to buy it, but I will only buy something that's in Google Cloud Platform or Microsoft Azure. Then you're like, well, we can't sell it to you because we have, we like everything is so integrated with that single cloud technology. So making your application like cloud agnostic, while also, so cloud agnostic is like your software can work in any of those cloud platforms, while also maintaining that like scalability and flexibility, is a challenge that we see in the industry in the move to the cloud. So something else to think about. But yeah, so that's kind of the story of Relativity to RelativityOne. Also, is that's just that progression of kind of the lift and shift with a few modifications to make it cloud ready, and then where we are now with the kind of middle ground and the replatforming direction, and who knows about the future. So that's all I have for the presentation, so we can move on to the Q&A.
Thanks, Laura. That was awesome. Well, sounds good. If anybody has questions, definitely submit those now. We do have a few questions that were submitted to us earlier, so we will get into that right now, and then we will come back to any questions that are submitted. So we'll get into it here. So one question we have is, and I know you used the term, Laura, in your presentation, we often hear the term cloud native versus cloud agnostic. Can you tell us what that means, and are there any pros and cons to both?
Yeah, so cloud native, as I mentioned, is like it's the software is like built using the cloud technologies that are available from the cloud provider. So like, for example, Microsoft Azure has a product called Blob storage, and if you build your application on Microsoft Azure, you might utilize their Blob storage product, right? So that's a great benefit, because blob storage tends to be like one of the cheaper storage options that Microsoft offers. So one of the less expensive ones. And so so you can take advantage of that. But then your product is really built into Microsoft Azure. It's really like connected with it. So the drawback of that is that if you wanted to spin up your software in a different cloud provider, you'd have to make modifications to the actual software in order to utilize whatever storage accounts that different cloud provider like Amazon Web Services or Alibaba Cloud or Google Cloud Platform provides.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
We have another one that was submitted to us earlier. How has Relativity supported you in your career journey?
Relativity has supported me so greatly in my career journey. So I've been just really fortunate at this company to have a lot of like champions who have really helped develop me as both as like a a soft skill person and as a develop my technical skills. And I think it just speaks to the amazing character of all the people that we have at our company. I mean, I think Relativity, not partially to Pat Brendan on we do a really great job hiring. I mean, we are really focused on our core values, and I feel like everyone we hire exemplifies those core values. And I know early in my career I was like so afraid to ask questions, and you know, I definitely struggled with that imposter syndrome, you know, feeling. And you know, as soon as I started asking questions, like people were like encouraging it and like actually like, you know, like praising me for asking questions and like bringing things up and trying to learn, and that just like accelerated my growth. So I really appreciate that, and I've just met so many great mentors and friends at Relativity to you know, who've encouraged me and helped me develop and kind of helped me think about which skills are going to like bring me the most benefit in my career. And yeah, I've just appreciated all of that.
Awesome. And that's definitely at Relativity. We try to be an organization focused on helping people grow throughout their career and finding different ways to do that. So it's great to hear that story as well, Laura.
Thank you.
And just to mention that too, we are currently hiring too. So definitely, you know, take a look at our career page and feel free to reach out to me directly if you have questions on any of those positions. And we have another question from the group as well too. This is kind of a fun question here. In bringing your internal stakeholders along on the journey, if you could go back and do something differently as we pivoted from the on-premise to SaaS, what would it be?
So just to repeat the question, so when we pivoted from on-prem to SaaS, what would I have suggested that we did differently?
Or maybe some of the pitfalls that
some of the pitfalls, yeah,
fell into that we could maybe avoid moving forward if we could do it again.
Yeah, I think like especially with the role that I'm in now, I'm like my biggest desire from us is like I want all the data. Like I just want like all of it all the time. I think some especially like performance data, you know, reliability data, anything about like understanding how our system is functioning, I think is the thing that's gonna take us to the next level. And I wish if I had to go back, that's something that I would have like prioritized very early on, is like making sure we have all of that insight into our system, like in very detailed ways. We have a lot of insight into our system and we have a lot of data about our system, but currently, and this is a common thing at many software companies, like the data is in a lot of different places. And so sometimes correlating it takes more effort and energy than I think it could. So so definitely like excited about the opportunities there to improve that area of the product and make things better for our customers as we get more insight into our system and are able to do fun things like AI operations, where we're able to like predict when things are slowing down or things like that. So that gets me really excited.
Very cool. Thank you. And we have some questions just came in as well too.
Yeah, I can answer.
So first one from Angelique. Can you talk about the teams and what they are involved in with maintaining and evolving Relativity One?
Yeah, so one of the, like, we work with a lot of teams that are involved in maintaining Relativity One. Right now, I work really closely with our SRE team, Site Reliability Engineering, and our monitoring team. So those are the two teams that I work very, very closely with. We have our whole engineering organization that works very closely with us. We have an engineering operations team, which runs all of like the automation that we use, like they're like our more DevOpsy team, if you're familiar with that term, and they help us automate all these tasks that make things easier for our engineers, and have also been involved with another word you'll hear, or another term you'll hear a lot in when talking about SaaS is or SaaS technologies, is CI/CD, continual integration and continual deployment. So that idea of like always like quickly and easily, like quickly and yeah, easily releasing software like on a regular basis. And then we have a NOC, which is a network operations center. So our operations team, RelativityOne operations, we have support, we have product, we have our product managers, can't leave them out, who are like always scanning the market and finding new features and capabilities that our product should have that the market wants. And so, yeah, a lot of different teams that come together to make our product the market leader. So it's a lot of work.
Awesome. We're getting a lot of great questions here, so we'll just fire at you. And this one's for you again. How do you work with engineering, cyber teams, and some of the other teams that you mentioned previously in your presentation?
Yeah. So I would say a lot of meetings, especially with the remote situation we're in now. I feel like I'm on Zoom meetings like a good portion of the day, which is good. I think I tend to be involved a lot more with like strategy and planning, and then kind of like dishing out the work to people. So it's understandable that my day tends to require a decent amount of meetings, but yeah, so in that way, and I think like that's always what I find like one of the most fun or funnest and like biggest challenges at work is like we all like want our product to be amazing and want it to be the best product out there and want to continue to be the market leader, but like how, like the how behind that, like how do you connect all those people and connect all those visions and like get everyone like speaking the same language and get everyone working on the same path. Like I think everybody, we all want the same thing, but like oftentimes as you'll realize, as anybody who's worked in any organization realizes, people sometimes have like different paths of how they think you should get there. And so like trying to so like working with cyber teams, working with engineering, working with product, like kind of trying to like corral everybody around the same how is probably one of the main ways that I work with those teams right now. And we're getting a lot of consistency, which is really exciting, and it makes my life a lot easier. So I hope that answered the question.
No, absolutely. And it's great to hear how we all work cross-functioning with different teams. So thank you.
Yep.
Another question, and this is more focused on the litigation piece and the things we're doing. And one person asked, do you believe that cloud services such as RelativityOne are the future push for effective litigation?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think that especially with the way that our world is going right now, like into this more kind of like distributed and remote model, like that is definitely something that like cloud software facilitates, people being able to access the software like from their home machine or home computer. Yeah, and having access to all like any matter that's happening. So and the data involved in that matter. So yeah, I definitely think that that cloud and cloud native cloud technologies are the future, not only for litigation but just like for technology in general. Who knows what the next iteration will be, like the quote, like like the only constant in technology is change. you know I'm sure there'll be something that comes after the cloud, but yeah, I think for now, like more and more, and we see it with our with our teams. We just are constantly, like our sales and marketing teams, constantly, everyone is thinking about. So I would say like 3 or 4 years ago, it was like kind of like should we even look at going to the cloud? And now it's like, which cloud provider should we go with? Like, so I think it's definitely shifted in the last 3 to 4 years, and the current situation with COVID and being more distributed across, like people not being in centralized offices as much right now has like definitely accelerated that, I think.
We're getting a lot of great questions, so this is awesome. Let's see the next one. What systems do we use to capture data?
Yeah, so we use so our application has is right now very heavily like as far as our storage, the way we store data, we use several different technologies. We use Elastic, we use Microsoft SQL Server, we use file systems. We actually like use Linux right now, but we are potentially shifting our file system usage with some proprietary technologies that we're building, which is really super exciting, that that are a push to more cloud native technologies. So that's really fun. And yeah, so that's as far as storage, like what do we use to, I'm guessing that answers the question, like capture the data is like, where is it stored and how do we store it? So those are the main systems, yeah, file system and SQL and Elastic. And we have the cool, so SQL Server, our SQL instances and our databases, like those, so with e-discovery, for those of you who aren't as familiar, you're dealing with unstructured data. So like if you have a matter come in, you know, it might be like a whole custodian's emails, and like all of the metadata is stored in SQL tables, and then like the natives and the images and things like that, and extracted text are stored in well, extracted text is stored in Elastic right now, and then like the natives and images are stored on the file system. So I hope that answers the question.
Hopefully, yep, absolutely. Thank you. And this question we've actually got a couple times. So what are some of the major challenges when it comes to migrating a client from on-prem to cloud?
Oh, that's a great question. I have a lot of experience with doing migrations. I think the biggest challenge is like usually the sheer volume of data. Like one customer I helped with their migration in 2019. It took us a long time, mostly due to, not due to the technologies we were using, but just due to like the priority. So so we had about 80 terabytes of data that we had to migrate from one system to another. And in the world of relativity, we use workspaces, which are each their own individual databases. So over 1,000 databases. So over 80 terabytes of data and over 1,000 databases. And the actual speed at which we were able to migrate that data was not necessarily the issue. The issue was like coordinating with like the attorneys who are still like working in those databases, and like letting the telling the attorneys that we have like, oh, we need like, you know, 14 hours of downtime to move this workspace over to RelativityOne, and getting them to like agree to that and say yes. So yeah, like the sheer volume and just like coordinating and organizing and getting all of those pieces set up. But yeah, that's probably like the biggest challenge that we face with migrations, is like the volume and the coordination and the organization.
Awesome. Getting some more questions coming in here as well too. How was the enablement of your internal teams handled as sellers had to shift from selling from an on-premise solution to selling SaaS? I don't know if that's something that you can help answer.
Yeah, that's a great question. I can give it like my perception at the company, but I don't work in sales, so I get to work with the sales team sometimes, which is great because I love that team. They're awesome and very enthusiastic about our product, which is great. But yeah, I think it's definitely been a shift. We also have a pre-sales team, and I think pre-sales like has done an amazing job of like handling of like creating like a repository of questions that that our sales team often gets about RelativityOne, and being able to like refer to those, and having like cleared all of those with like various, like cleared the answers with like various technical teams and various like security teams. So again, like a lot of cross-functional work to get us to the place we are today. But yeah, I think like from my perception, our sales team gets like a lot more questions about security, because from an on-premise solution, like you're definitely like, you're managing all your machines, you're doing all the updates, you like know how secure your software is and or not. Whereas like, you know, if you're trusting a cloud provider to do it, you know, you have a lot of questions about like how they're managing the security of the environment, especially with the amount of sensitive data we deal with in RelativityOne. And so a lot of questions about security, a lot of questions about technology, like what technologies are we using, how do we monitor the environment, how do the systems work. So yeah, I think it did shift in the types of questions they were asked, and the way that we handled that was really doing our pre-sales team doing a lot of work to get a lot of those answers, so they're ready for the sales team when they need them. So.
Great answer. Yeah, no, definitely too. When you mentioned security, I know that's something that we have to look at as well too, as far as regulations when dealing with data in the cloud versus on-prem as well too. So we
Yep.
definitely have to educate our clients on that as well.
Yep.
I know we have another question here, and I can kind of answer this one quick. The question is, are we able to partner with Relativity as a vendor on upcoming projects? And if so, can we describe upcoming projects? Kind of tough to answer right off the bat, but if, yeah, we're always, looking to partner with different organizations. And so I would say definitely reach out to me directly, with the question, maybe we can talk a little bit more detail and I can help get you connected with the right people. Let's see if we've got any other questions maybe in the queue. I think we've answered most of them. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all the questions we have for now.
Yeah.
So thank you everybody for joining us, and I hope everybody learned a lot. And thanks, Laura. That was an awesome presentation. I know I learned a lot myself as well.
Awesome.
Continuing, we're going to have another fireside chat here in December, and actually our focus is going to be on security, and we're going to have some members of our security team here. So definitely keep an eye open for that, and any other events that we might be hosting as well. And again, we are still hiring as well too. So we have a lot of different positions across different departments. So you can either go on our career page and apply directly there, or you can also, connect with me on LinkedIn and ask me questions about any roles as well. So I want to thank everybody for coming and hope everybody learned a lot, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.